8 years ago this week, Moana arrived in theaters somewhat unceremoniously, earning about $600 million, which is about half of what Frozen did during its original run. But since that time, it has amassed a huge following, becoming the most streamed film over the last 5 years on any platform. And this week, we're talking about its highly anticipated sequel, Moana 2. Let's do it.
This is Popcorn for Breakfast, presented by St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Cam and Kurt.
We were talking this weekend. I don't love Thanksgiving as a holiday, and I know that that's like apparently a very hot take. I didn't realize I really struck a chord at the family dinner by dropping that bomb that I'm not a huge fan of Thanksgiving. I like the essence of it. I just think there are other holidays that are superior to it. But I will say this for Thanksgiving. It is an elite movie watching holiday with like in theaters. I'm not talking like in-home viewing. Like some of my fondest memories growing up is going to the movie. Like all my cousins are in town. We would go to the movie theater. Like there'd be the big like Christmas parade in town the day after Thanksgiving, and then we'd go to the movies that were in town as well.
Yeah.
We literally check the newspaper or call. Like this is what you used to have to do for anybody out there who doesn't remember. Like check the newspaper for the local show times, and then you'd pick a movie and you'd go. Your parents would drop you off and you'd make it happen. And I saw so many movies over Thanksgiving weekend. And now I know Christmas has become a really big movie watching holiday. I mean, it has been for many people for a long time, but it's more so a movie watching holiday for me now. But Thanksgiving still holds that.
Mm-hmm.
I have some really, really fond memories of that.
Yeah. Was it Thanksgiving or Christmas where you, me, and cousin Kenny went and saw Drive? Do you know which one it was? I feel like it was.
I think it was Thanksgiving. I'd have to check the release dates. But yeah, I mean, we've been to quite a few movies with my cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we even like now that our cousins have had kids, like we took all the kids to go see Wish, which like we didn't love, but still, it's just fun. It's memory making. And I feel like that's kind of what Thanksgiving's about, and I think that that's what is great about movies and seeing a movie in the theaters. And Thanksgiving is great because it's in a way like Thanksgiving, the holiday is great, but that Friday after, not for the shopping reasons or anything like that, but that Friday after is awesome because you've got nothing that you have to do.
Right.
Yeah, it's a total blank slate. Makes it a perfect time to go to the movies. You're kind of sitting around. You're feeling a little lazy because you filled your stomach the last day. You're feeling a little sleepy. It's great. It's really awesome.
What's it called? Trip to something.
Tryptophan.
Tryptophan.
Yeah, make you all sleepy. So yeah, this one releases this weekend, and they're saying we're gonna have a ginormous box office, Thanksgiving box office, maybe the biggest ever because of Wicked, of course, which is, I mean, that is it possible that it's gotten more popular since it release? Like,
yes,
it's crazy. Like the total zeitgeist right now is just like Wicked, everything. I think people were kind of waiting to see if critics liked it and waiting for word of mouth to build, and then it was like, all right, open the floodgates, and everybody went to go see it. I've probably been asked 13 times over the last week what I thought of the movie.
Wow. Did you just point them toward our episode?
I did. I'm shameless. I'm just like, here's a link. Click it.
Like I will say nothing. I've said my piece. Give me views, give me likes.
Detail. So yeah, and then obviously there's Gladiator 2 in theaters, which is definitely, it's gaining some steam. It's not doing as well domestically because of Wicked. And then we've got Moana 2. This is an interesting movie because of a lot of reasons, and I think we'll get into all of them. But I think the biggest one is like at the end of the year last year, we didn't know this was coming.
No.
Isn't that kind of crazy? Like we didn't find out until like I think it was like February, March of this year that it was coming. We didn't get a trailer until like May-ish. And it was like, oh, by the way, it's releasing in November.
Yeah, was it announced at D23? They're like, hey, Moana 2 is ready. It's rolling out in a couple of months.
It was something like that. It might have been like their investor call, if I remember, because I was a Disney shareholder at the time, and so I listened to that. I think it might have been that. So yeah, it's like really quick turn. And the reason for that is that it was going to be a TV series. It was going to be a Disney Plus series. And it was not going to be Moana 2. It was just going to be some sort of Moana I don't know if it's still called a spinoff if Moana was set to lead it, but essentially like a companion show to
Mhm.
the movie. Kind of like what they used to do with all of our movies on Disney Channel back in the day. Like you had Aladdin and Aladdin 2, but then you also had like the Aladdin show, and you had like the
Mhm.
Hercules show, and you had like Kronk's what was that? Emperor's New
Yeah.
School. Like you had all
Yes.
these shows. So that's what it kind of reminds me of. But they decided to sort of retrofit this thing to become a movie, which is a red flag.
A bold choice, some
Yeah.
might say.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing is when you look at this on paper going into it, you're like, okay, the tea leaves are not encouraging. Like this was going to be a show. Now they're going to change it into a movie. That's never a good idea.
Mhm.
And then you've got like, oh, by the way, all the creatives that were involved in the first project, they're not coming back. Like Jared Bush came back, who wrote the first one, and he wrote Encanto. But like Lin Manuel out, the directors of the last film out, like so many creatives gone. So you've got all that going on, and the fact that it's like this was going to be a TV show, but now we're turning it into a movie and we're releasing it this year. It just felt very like, ooh, if I'm just reading the signs here, it seems not good.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's gonna be an interesting one to talk about.
It is. It's spoiler free today as
Yep.
well, just like we like to do in most of our episodes. Spoiler free. We got an early screening of this. We got to take our lovely wives to this.
Yes.
That was maybe the first time they got to experience our world, seeing all of our movie critic people.
Yeah.
And I think they were giggling at the nerdiness of it all
Yeah.
and the passion that was there. And they're movie lovers as well. But it was funny. They're like, "Oh, do you want to take your guys' picture over there?"
Yeah. It was like when your mom drops you off for your first day of school. They're like, you guys want pictures with your friends? Like, I don't know. But last night was really nice because there were so many people there that we knew, and it just reminded me like how beautiful community is.
Yes.
And that was really nice. So ambiance was right. We were ready to
Mhm.
watch this movie, so we were in a good headspace when we watched it.
Popcorn was just
It was
perfect.
bussin'.
Ooh, bussin'.
Yeah, it was bussin'.
Hey,
It was bussin'.
no cap. Sigma popcorn.
Oh, stop.
I've lost all of our listeners.
Yeah,
again.
we're gone. We're gone. Let's get into this before Kirk does anything else reckless.
But before you do, make sure you're watching on YouTube. Sometimes you might see clips on TikTok, on
Yeah.
X, on Facebook, because I'm wearing a beautiful bright blue Hawaiian shirt, ladies and gentlemen. Or should I say Polynesian? I don't know, but it's just
I think it's
fun.
a Hawaiian shirt, but it's you're trying to celebrate Polynesian culture, and I respect that.
I'm getting in the mood for our review for Moana.
You
2.
now have to you're like at a point now where you're like a method actor. You have to get into character for every review. Otherwise you can't do it. I don't know why.
Can you
but-
imagine when later on next month when we review Nosferatu,
The brutalist.
the brutalist?
It's
I
like
come in-
you come in here with a broken nose and smoking a cigarette. Like okay, Kirk, this has gone too far. This is actually
Nosferatu, I shave my head and I come in a
you
cloak.
just stand in the doorway. Yeah, let's not. Let's stop this trend right here. This will
Nope.
be the
I'm
the
committed.
end of it. I don't
I'm
think I
committed.
can live with that. All right. So for those of you who are new to the show, maybe you watched our Wicked review. Tons of people did. So thank you for that. We have a format that we do with our reviews where we talk about the best actor in a category called And the Oscar Goes To. We talk about Scene Stealer, which is the best supporting actor. In this case, voice actor for both of those, because this is an animated film. We talk about the Showstopper, which is the one thing about the movie that really knocked us off our feet. And then we talk director's shoes, which is what we maybe didn't like. And then we do a final thoughts and scores. Kirk, begrudgingly, I have to say that's your turn to go first.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. What can I say except you're welcome? But that's not my choice. I'm going with
Kirk's got all the dad jokes tonight. It's
I got
rough.
the Hawaiian
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah, that's
I
what it
think-
is. That's what it is. It's like you can't control it. Like it's like the lasso of truth, only it's like the Hawaiian shirt of dad jokes.
It's squeezing out every dad joke into the microphone.
It's
It's not my fault.
It's horrible.
I'm gonna go with Miss Ali E. Carvalho.
You did it.
Did I get it right?
You did it. I'm proud of you.
I'm always nervous to say her name, but I'm always excited to see her performance, whether it's in live action or if we get her behind the voice of Moana. Obviously, she voiced the original Moana and she killed it. She absolutely nailed it. I can't imagine anyone else being in this role. It's kind of like you have Ariel, you have Belle.
Yeah.
You have any princess out there, you're like, no, that is that character. If you try to switch up the character's voice, if you see someone pretending to be it online, trying to become a voice actor, you're like, no, you're wrong, even if they're impersonating them. So she is Moana when she comes on screen and you hear that voice. It is synonymous. The artists 1000% molded this character to her, Ali'i, and it's so refreshing. Probably the best part of it. Like returning to this character is is daunting. Returning to this character in any sequel, especially a Disney sequel, is bold. And we were comforted and welcomed back with everything she had to give. Her vocal range was in singing and in speaking was both dynamic. We got whispers, we got breath work like panicked and from exhaustion from swimming across and in the ocean, and she really lit up the screen once again.
Yeah, she's amazing, and I think this character is amazing, and I really think that when you think about, man, it's a crazy stat that Moana is the most streamed movie over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like Disney Plus didn't exist until 2019, so it's like, oh, since Disney Plus has come out, Moana is the most streamed movie anywhere. It came out in 2016. Like it's not it wasn't new whenever Disney Plus came out. So I mean, there is something to it. There is a secret sauce to Moana. And I mean, I think, that's a 9 out of 10 movie for me. Like it's up there.
Mhm.
It's an S tier Disney movie, and I think there's a lot of things that go into it, but I think that Moana character
Mhm.
is huge.
What's the S? Does it stand for superior?
I don't
S.
know what it stands for. You haven't seen Kirk. You need to be chronically online like
Oh,
me.
no.
You need to like live on the internet. Like whenever people make tier lists, you never see that. It's like S tier, A tier, B tier.
No.
Ugh.
Well, we need
Please,
to.
can somebody help me? Am I alone on this? I feel like this is a known thing.
Well, we need to define this for our listeners. If I don't know, then surely most of them,
It's
or
probably true.
or
You're probably
three
right.
of them, might not know.
Sometimes I forget because I do live chronically online.
I
and
love
think that
chronically. I'm getting you a T-shirt. I'm
it's
chronically online.
it's a disease. That's why. So I think, yeah, S is the highest. S
Okay,
tier.
S
So
tier.
I put it up there with all the great Disney movie musicals that there have ever been, including Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, etc.
Song of the South.
Oh, sheesh. That was I was not mentally prepared for that one. Home on the Range,
Yeah.
the good, just the classics. Yeah. So I think there's a secret sauce in closing.
Okay.
Moana is part of that, and I think Ali'i Carvalho is a big part of it. And I think the other big part of it is who I'm gonna have as my scene stealer, and that's Dwayne Johnson. Believe it or not.
Can I boo or no? Do I have to
You
hold
can
my
you can boo for Dwayne Johnson, or are you booing my pick?
Dwayne Johnson only?
Okay, yeah. Feel free. Just you get one.
Boo.
Yeah. He's I don't know what to say about Dwayne Johnson at this point. When Moana came out in 2016, that was sort of the beginning of him rising to the top of the mountain. I feel like after that time, and I'm not going to get into it all the reasons why, but after that time, it has been a steady PR decline for him. I think he had some people convinced that like he could really be like a decent actor in this industry after that and Jumanji, etc. I still don't necessarily think that, but for whatever reason, this Maui character works for him. It really does, and I feel like in this movie, Maui, and spoiler free, Maui is it's different this time. He's doing different things. He's sort of like reclaimed his former glory, right, in the first one. So now he's back to like full-time demigod
Mhm.
responsibilities. And so that takes him in some different directions as a character. But I feel like in the portions where Maui is not involved, and this is the key, like the movie feels weird. It doesn't feel right. They're relying on a myriad of other characters that have come into play in this film. I mean, truly a lot. And so I really did feel like, strangely, Maui was sort of the calming force in this movie whenever it needed some balance and it needed some tonal alignment and it needed some familiarity. When things started to feel weird, it was Dwayne Johnson's Maui. He does have a song in this movie that is just god awful. I mean, truly
Spoiler.
so bad. I mean, there's songs like that's not a spoiler. It's quite bad. So that's a shame because I think You're Welcome is great.
Yes.
And I think everybody like universally loves that song in that moment. And really all the songs from the original Moana are so good.
Mhm.
This was not it. So I'm certainly not giving him the award for that reason. It's really just because the sort of back and forth between him and Moana, when when the whole group's together, like that really steadies the movie for me.
Yeah, they've got good chemistry.
They do. I think they
Ye-
just they there's something there.
Yeah, what's funny, my greatest takeaway from this movie is that Lin-Manuel Miranda tricked an entire planet that Dwayne The Rock Johnson could sing a song.
Yeah.
It was tailor-made for him, and this one was not.
Yeah, and you can even tell in that song that like singing is not something he does. It's sort of it like you said, tailor made for him. And I think he would be the first one to tell you like he's not a singer too. So yeah, it's hard to catch lightning twice.
Mm-hmm.
Safe to say. They did not catch it this time. It was rough.
You know what's funny is that right now Cynthia Erivo is going around on all the talk shows and she's just singing the Wicked songs like a cappella.
Yes, she is.
When Moana came out, Dwayne The Rock Johnson was doing the same thing. He would just stand up from his chair on the talk show and like clap a beat and be like, I see what's happening here. And he'd make everyone sing with him. So I think they're essentially the same person.
That's your takeaway from it?
That's right.
Interesting. Yeah, if he does it this time, I think he's gonna. They're like the FCC is gonna say like you can't show this to children.
That's
like,
right.
We can't have people hearing this. This is a human rights violation.
That's right.
Actually. Okay, so let's move on to supporting actors. Like I said, tons of new characters in the fold. You can certainly glimpse that from the trailer, and if you've avoided the trailer, sorry, it's just the way that it is. There's lots of new characters. It's a sequel. It happens. So maybe they will be making some appearances in Scene Stealer. Kirk, you can kick us off and let me know.
You know what? Not in my Scene Stealer.
Oh, okay.
I gotta tell you, I am always impressed at one of the hottest voice actors that has been taking roles left and right for probably 15 years now. His name is Alan Tudyk.
Oh, yeah.
He plays Hey Hey.
He does.
And he voices other kind of noises and sounds, right? But most importantly, he voices Hey Hey. And how he makes Hey Hey's caw, scream, screech, I'll never understand. I'll never get it. Obviously, there's some effects going with it.
Yeah.
But the base of it, you just have to think like the base of Hey Hey's essence is that. It is him. And that blows my mind.
That's all.
That's all I have. I think that blows my mind.
Have you seen my favorite is the Alan Tudyk. Have you ever seen the behind the scenes video of him recording for Moana 1?
No.
Oh my God. You've never seen it? He does this. There's this great video of him recording and he's making chicken sounds and he's in like a sound booth, right? He's recording his lines and it's just like chicken sounds. And at the very end, he goes, I went to Juilliard. And it's just like perfect comedic timing and it cracks me up. I mean, he is a voiceover extraordinaire. I still love him for A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale.
That's the best, but he is, he's the GOAT when it comes to voice acting.
He's the
days.
chicken when it comes to GOAT.
For sure. Another dad joke. So
Thank
add
you.
that to your tally.
Thank you.
I am going to go with one of our newcomers, actually, even though I felt like this movie had major character bloat in it. Lots of new characters pulling this thing in all sorts of directions. I'm going with Hualalai Chung, who played Moni. I'm not going to divulge much about the Moni character because he is interesting and I want people to experience it firsthand. But I think that there's always this tendency with sequels, you have to scale up. And that's just kind of how it is. You have to kind of scale things up, bigger stakes, bigger everything, right? And so typically there are new characters that come into the fold. This one had a bunch of them. And I think that his is the one that really made sense in this story and made sense in terms of a group dynamic between really, if it was just him and Moana and Maui at certain points in this movie, it would have felt pretty good. I think there was a real natural feel there. And I liked in general the way that he was used for the most part. I think a lot of the laughs generated by his character were pretty genuine and funny and felt pretty real. So that's where I go with my Scene Stealer.
That's wonderful.
Moni.
I hot debate I can't speak on this in the podcast. Hot debate in my car going home because we drove separately.
yes, yeah.
About the extra characters. Hot debate on that one, and I'm for it as well.
You're for it as well.
I'm for it as well. My wife was not.
Yeah,
but I'm for it. I'm for Moni.
She's a tough one. She's a tough critic.
Man, if you think that we are critical,
yeah, she's tough, man.
And I think the reason is we get to see so many movies, right?
Yeah.
Per year, and our wives allow us to go to movies 3 times a week sometimes, right? And so they get like 2 movies in the theater per year.
It does feel like they don't go very often.
And so they're like,
Not because of us. We
no,
offer many times. We're like, hey, let's
many
go to the
times.
movies. It just is what it
It
is.
doesn't work out always. And she was like, absolutely not that character. And I was like, no, I thought he was effective.
Sheesh, she's coming for me. I gotta watch out. My big sister's gonna nail me for that one. Let's move into the movie itself. We got Showstopper up first. What about this movie impressed you? What was the big win for you?
Big win was Moana's big solo song.
Darn you, you dirty, dirty dish rag.
If you're confused why Cam is calling me names publicly, this is recorded for all time. Just remember.
I don't even know that I know why I'm calling you names.
It's because he can't steal that one for his showstopper.
True.
He cannot pick the same thing that I have selected. Okay.
That's true.
So it's Moana's big song. Obviously, she's gonna have a solo. Otherwise, what's the point of having Moana 2? And you guys will hear it very soon as you get to the theaters. It's the best song of the entire movie, hands down. It expresses exactly what she's going through emotionally. It expresses where she's been, where she's at, and where she thinks she's ready to go. It's just a wonderful conglomerate of all of that, a prism, if you will, that she's pouring into to show where she will go, right? How far I'll go. Well, now she's trying to go beyond that distance, right? Would never go beyond the reef. Is that what they say in the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now she's trying to figure out, I've gone beyond the reef, but where do I go next? It's a very existential, lovely, melodic question mark in her journey. So I really enjoyed that song the most.
Yeah, good one. That's certainly would have been my pick. I feel like there is one good song in this whole movie, which maybe that's probably a shocking statement for those of you who haven't seen the movie and love the first Moana, where every song is really good. This movie is not that, in my opinion. I think that her main song, which shall remain nameless for spoiler-free reasons, is really great and actually has been in my head since we saw the movie last night. So I give them a lot of credit for that song. Every other tune, in my opinion, utterly forgettable, and many of them just half-baked and not even good.
I mean, we have several Cheer Up Charlie songs in this movie.
Oh man, poor Cheer Up Charlie. It's a fair criticism. I don't like Cheer Up Charlie either. Nobody does. But yeah, it's just a forgettable. Not you're gonna fast forward through it.
Yep.
Okay, my showstopper. Now that I'm scrambling to come up with one, I don't know why. I knew you were going first, and I assumed you would take that because it's slim pickings. For me, it's actually the opening act of this movie where we're on Motunui. I love the tribe dynamic. I love seeing, we don't really get to return to Motunui after the adventures. Like we see her arrive back home and everybody's happy and it's good, but it's like what comes after. And so I think that was a big anticipation point for this movie is what does it look like now that they've got access to maybe different resources, they're doing different things as a tribe, they're thinking about things differently. And I really enjoyed seeing that and spending more time, I think, on the island on the whole than we did in the first movie. At least it felt like that. It felt like we spent more time, explored more areas. And I think it's really well designed from an animation perspective. The entire Motunui, the tribe, the people in it, there's just a lot of layers to it that make it a really vibrant, beautiful community. And so for the first, honestly, the first 15 to 20 minutes, I was pretty bought in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of exposition in there, and that's okay. I think in general, these movies tend to be a little bit like that. Like you go back and you watch a lot of these Disney movies, there's always like some big story at the beginning to kind of get you. You think about like Sleeping Beauty and things like that, where they like open the book. They kind of still do that in a way with these Disney animated films. But I really do think Motunui and the energy and the just the vibe of that was really nice to see and really refreshing.
That's beautiful. Yeah, the tribe is such a good way to go. Once I pulled the rug out from underneath your feet,
No, it's all good.
on your selection, it's in fact they could have done more. I could have spent half of this movie with the tribe because it's such a good vibe. It's such a good aesthetic, and there's so much to explore on their I don't even want to say tiny island, because when you go to that establishing shot,
It's
in
huge.
the first one and in this one, like it's the same scale. It's a giant island.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that they don't have more population there, just because they have the room
Yeah.
to grow. Like it's kind of wild. So I love that.
Yeah, it's like if you're looking for other people that you guys were Voyagers, you should try the other side of the island first. Like, I don't know if you guys have been there. It's ginormous. Great. So let's move into director's shoes. This is where we put ourselves in the director's chair and then in the director's shoes and say what we would have changed about this movie. Kirk, you're up.
I have two big gripes.
Let's hear them.
These are big. These are big. The first one is that, as you see from the trailer, she has a sister.
Mm,
And I feel like the character of the sister was completely ineffective. They did not spend enough time with the sister for me to actually care about their relationship. If you're going to add a character of that significance, you need to really bring it home. And it didn't
mhm.
get there for me. And then the other big offender was absolutely the water, the visual of the water. I rewatched the first half of Moana before we got to go into our screening of Moana 2, and the water is crystal clear. Like, this is, I've said this before, water is the most difficult thing to animate, because water is not an object. It is a fluid, moving, living thing, especially in the context of a movie. And they just didn't get the water right, which makes no sense, because they have the blueprint of the first film
Yeah,
where the water was perfect.
beautiful.
I mean, I was just upset most of the water scenes, and the movie is set on water. So you can imagine I was a pretty big grumpy cat the whole movie. So those are my biggest director's shoes that I wish would have had more attention and more care.
Yeah, those are good ones. I mean, I'll just say it, I think this movie has problems galore. We've been like kind of alluding to that during the course of the review. Didn't want to come out and say it like at the beginning. Um, but I do. I think this movie is really flawed. And for me, my biggest director shoes, and it doesn't sound like one thing because it sort of permeates its way through the whole entire um, product, is the look, tone, and feel of this movie. Look, tone, and feel is off big time, really from beat one. The entire way the filmic language in this movie is different than the first one, meaning the way that they communicate humor, the way that they communicate um, relationships with angles and things like that. The entire thing is off kilter. It has taken on this really weird tone and gone in a direction that I really hate, where they're trying to, for whatever reason, they had convinced themselves they had to get like at least 2 laughs per minute out of this movie. I mean, truly, they were going for an insane amount of laughs. Most of them fall flat, and the humor is so much more slapstick in this movie than it was in the first one. In the first one, you get this really beautiful, kind of naturally derived humor where it's like it's a coming of age story with Moana, right? And she's feeling awkward about the fact that like she's got this demigod and she's trying to tell him what to do, and he's kind of like defiant, and there's this great back and forth, and they have some really funny lines between them. That's where the real genuine laughs come from. In this movie, it's like the Animaniacs. They're like out here smacking each other in the head. It's freaking crazy. Like they're doing the dumbest stuff. It's like there's slime monsters, and it's like watching a bad Illumination movie. It's like watching Secret Life of Pets or something.
Careful.
No,
Careful.
that's a bad one.
Is it?
That's
It has a ride in Disneyland, or in Universal California.
It does. That doesn't mean anything. it's
Wow.
it's like a bad it's a bad Illumination movie, I think is really how it felt this
That's
whole
very
way.
fair. That's very fair.
At one point, literally, there is this amalgus. I don't even know how to explain this
Mhm.
character that does the screaming goat scream.
Yeah.
And I face palmed so hard it would make like Picard blush. Like I hammer fisted my head. It was, at least I felt like I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe that was just the effect of the moment. It's all wrong. And the way that they're communicating humor is quick pans, and they're doing these things. And sometimes it gets a laugh and sometimes they're genuine, but they're going for so many that it just destroys the stakes of the movie. It destroys the heart of the movie. There's just so many things about it that are wrong. And because they get a little bit zanier with all that stuff, it loses that beautiful tactile feel that Moana 1 had. There was this thing about Moana, and I think one of the reasons it's so effective as a movie is that you feel like you can touch that movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like when I say tactile, like it literally feels real and grounded, even though there's these mystical elements, right? There's Maui, he's like a shape-shifting guy. There's like an island that's alive, and there's a fire lava monster, etc. But that's the beauty of it, is that they can add all that stuff in and make it feel right and still feel grounded. This thing did not feel grounded. We were in all sorts of crazy directions, and the tone and the look and the feel of it is just off.
And I think with Moana 1 is because the creative vision was so cohesive, right? So we talk about when we see Tafiti, we feel warm. We feel like a
Yes.
mother is holding us, right? When you see Taka, you're like, oh man, I'm suddenly sweating at the sight of this thing. Like it might jump out of the screen and eat me. When we see Tamatoa, we're in a cool place and we feel persuaded, and we feel like we can let our guard down, right? Because we're down deep. We don't have anywhere to go. We're at his mercy, just like our characters are. So like everything creatively with Moana 1 was so thoughtful.
Yeah.
And this one, it's all an afterthought.
It is. It hurts to see, actually,
Mhm.
because the first one is so thoughtful, like you said, and it, like you said, clarity of creative vision down to every bit of it.
Yes.
It's like when you have a consistent brand, like we talk about this in marketing. When you have a consistent brand, it makes it easy to make choices because you know your brand. And so whenever Nike does something, it's going to look like Nike because they know who they are.
Mhm.
And this movie didn't know who it was, but that first Moana movie really did. And so they knew, like, we have to show Teka here. They knew the angle, they knew the lighting, they knew the shading, they knew the whole thing, exactly how the music had to be, because they had this clarity of vision. And this movie clearly does not have that, and is just frenetic and all over the place and scattered, and it really suffers because of it.
It does.
It really does. So with that, let's move into final thoughts and scores. Kirk, you're first
10
up.
out of 10, right?
Sounds like it.
Let's just be clear, like for a movie about a wayfinder, right? So Moana has graduated basically because of her success in Moana 1.
Mhm.
This movie has no direction.
Ooh,
It doesn't
preach.
it doesn't know where it wants to guide its audience. It is just aimlessly grasping at straws, throwing out characters, throwing out jokes, attempting to be the level up of Moana 1. And one of the biggest offenses that it does is that because it was shot and written as an episodic series, we keep getting exposition. We get a lot at the beginning, which is film like, give us the groundwork and give us surprises or twists as we go on. But we get information, and then in 2 scenes later, we get a boatload of information and character names that they have to keep saying those character names for us to remember, because there's no chance we can remember those character names because they've given us 20. And over and over and over again, that continues to happen. And it just doesn't work. It's exhaustive on the audience. And for something that just doesn't look as good as the first one or feel as good as the first one, my score today is a 2.4 out of 10 kernels.
Yeah. I echo a lot of that. I'm going to go a step further. I would say that in general, as someone who is a Disney fan, truly like loves Disney, loves the parks, loves all of it, grew up with Disney movies playing in my house all the time, these iconic Disney musicals, and as someone who loved the first Moana movie, this is a huge failure by the Walt Disney Company. And Bob Iger's got his fingers all over this. He's got his fingerprints all over this. I am someone, I've spoken on the podcast before. I'm a business nerd, and I have always really respected Bob Iger. I think from a business perspective, he's been really smart in guiding this company. And I had hoped that the things that we saw over the last few years were really more Bob Chapek issues. But Bob Iger comes back. This is one of his big decisions. He decides we're making Moana 2 now. We need the money. We need to make this happen. It's the right thing to do. And on paper, it is exactly what they should do, but it's the way that they did it that was all wrong. Turning a TV show into a movie, not returning any of the key creatives from the original film, rushing it. It's all wrong, and it's a huge failure. And here they are. They've just taken this thing that we just talked about as the most streamed movie over the last 5 years, this thing that could be a powerhouse franchise for them. And not only that, but a genuinely tasteful artistic endeavor at the same time.
Yes.
It's like the beauty, the merging of business and art, which is what I love to see. I love when business can elevate art. And they had a chance to do that and they screwed it up. This was Michael Eisner era Disney shenanigans. Like
Mhm.
this was like those sequel movies that we got, like Little Mermaid 2, straight to, like straight to home video. This was that. It looked like that. It felt uncanny like that. It felt just odd and off and terrible. And honestly, I would say as consumers, like we got to start standing up to this. Like, I really don't want to pay to see this movie. I'm glad I got an advanced screen because I don't want to put my dollars behind this
Right.
because this is a short-term game, long-term loss decision for them where they've taken their cash cow and they've ruined it. They've taken characters and they've ruined that. A beloved movie and they've turned it into a bad franchise. Like this is a huge disaster for them, ginormous. And I think that this was gonna go down as one of their. I mean, Walt Disney Animation Studios. You look at what they've done post John Lasseter. At this point, I'm ranting. They haven't turned out consistently good movies the entire time. I liked Raya the Last Dragon. Nobody else did. That's fine. Frozen 2, okay. Encanto, great. But Encanto is the only great film that they've made since
Mhm.
since Moana, as an animation studio. That's crazy. That's bad.
And guess who was also a part of that? Lin-Manuel
Lin-Manuel,
Miranda.
exactly. It's so they're making bad decisions, and I think that as a CEO, Bob Iger has a fiduciary responsibility to make good decisions on behalf of the shareholders. This was not one. This was a bad one. If you would have said, "Hey, we're making Moana 2, but we need more time because not everybody's available," every shareholder would be like, "Do your thing, man. We want to have all the original people back, make the magic happen." They didn't want this. They didn't
Mhm.
want this. And as a fan and someone who loves movies, I didn't want this, and I'm giving it 2.0 out of 10. I think this thing stinks.
Mhm.
Stinks.
Mhm.
I was shocked to see the tomato meter today. I'll just say that.
Wow.
Um,
I mean, wow.
when it released, I don't know what it's at now. I'll have to check. When I last checked it, it was at 69%. When it released this morning, it was at 72%. I about fell out of my chair.
Mhm.
Um, I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Like everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but that wasn't just like I know people give kids movies a little bit of extra oomph because they're like, oh, it's for kids will like it. And that may be true here. Maybe kids will like this movie, but we got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. If this gets a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, like,
Right.
I'm sorry. This was bad.
Right. It's not fair to diminish that, to say like, oh, kids will like it even though adults don't. Like, you're diminishing the taste of a child, right? Like,
Absolutely. You're
you're
you're you're you're you're demeaning them. Yeah.
yeah, you're like, "Psh, they'll like this garbage." No, they don't deserve garbage content. I mean, there's so much of that on I don't want to say the name of the app we're on, but there's a lot of garbage, brainless stuff out there, and this is something that's not supposed to be that. It's not its alley, it's not its lane, it's nothing. It should be something creatively exciting, emotionally deep,
Yes.
and encouraging for a number of reasons for a child to see this and be excited or inspired by something from it.
100%. And this is one like through and through, just corporate trash.
Yes.
Corporate, just blah. They're just like, yeah, they'll eat that up. They'll watch it, and people will. People will go see this movie,
Hmm.
but they're coming because of the first one. They're not becoming coming because of this one. And mark my words, if they make a Moana 3, which of course they will, I don't think it's going to do as well because this is bad. This is just bad.
It's very bad. Yeah, the trick is like on the second one, they can put out whatever they want, and people who aren't looking it up or looking into spoiler-free reviews, like you get here with us
Mhm.
at Popcorn for Breakfast. Thank you so much for listening and watching. They'll go to it. They'll spend their money going in blind, thinking that they can trust because it's just has Moana attached to it, and unfortunately, they will be very let down.
Agree. Agree. So unfortunately, that's our review of Moana. We both wanted it to be really good. We actually genuinely, it's been a lot harder recently since we've been seeing a lot of these movies together and we're riding in the car together a lot of times to go see them. It's been harder to shield our opinions from each other, but there was no shielding opinions on this one. Like we walked out of the theater mad
Yes.
last night, just like wanted this to be good, knew that there was a chance that it wouldn't be because of all the things against it, but you just hope that they're going to pull it off and make something really great. And they didn't. So if you see the movie, if you've seen the movie, or if you're going to see the movie this weekend, let us know in the comments what you think. Also, let us know if the audio syncs. Didn't you feel like the lips were off in our theater?
I think it was I don't think it was the projector at all. I think it was the final print that they sent to the theater.
Do you really?
I do.
I wondered about that. So yeah, we want to confirm that. Like, let us know if you see it and the mouths seem like they're out of sync. If that's really what happened, because if so, I mean, sheesh, that's another ginormous mistake. It did affect my viewing of it, but I chose to like say, okay, this is probably just some sort of translation error here. So hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, we hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We thank you guys for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, we very much appreciate you. As a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, you can also listen to us in podcast form. Podcast listeners, you can also watch us on YouTube. So feel free to check us out everywhere. We are on every social network that there is, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I still call it Twitter. TikTok, and we also have our own Discord server, which the link is in the description, where you can join us and talk about movies. It's a lot of fun. There's still a lot of big movies coming out this year. We're in the midst of the Academy Awards for your consideration campaigns. Our inbox is filling up with screening invites, which is beautiful to see. And so we've got a lot more reviews and movie news talk coming on this podcast. So be sure to stay tuned. And we want to give a special thanks to our title sponsor, St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings, and our executive producer, Ryan. We hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.
Talk to you then.